welcome to the Shelly Studio, and this is a video for the CAC Fantasy Art hashtag event. CAC stands for Creative Arts Collaboration. That is a group of artists that are all working together and creating fantasy art for this particular hashtag event or art crawl. And I decided to do a dragon. I've never done fantasy style art before, so I thought this would be a fun thing to try. I googled a lot of fantasy art to see what it would look like. I have made a couple of other attempts. They may or may not get shown. As of the moment, they're not complete. But this is what I'm doing now, and this is watercolor, and this is the wet in wet technique to get just an interesting abstract background. And I just used yellow and 2 shades of green, and I'm keeping it really wet. I sprayed it, and now I'm just trying to move the paint around to make interesting shapes, and still trying to be careful not to get it in on the figures. So now I just let it dry by itself overnight, and now we're gonna see what we can do with the figures. And I didn't wet the dragon. I'm just putting it on the dry paper and just putting the yellow where the highlights would be on the figures. And then coming in with a little bit more green, just to give it some shading. And like I said, I've never really painted a dragon before. I googled fantasy art on the internet to see, what kind of art was really considered fantasy art. I've done a couple of other pieces. Well, they're not really complete. I'm working on a couple other pieces. If they turn out halfway decent, I will upload the video. Right now, one of them is kind of cutesy. I don't know if it counts as fantasy art. The other one is not done, and I don't know where it's going, so we'll see what happens with that one. So now I'm just trying to get more shading on my dragon. I know I've said this before, paintings can go through an ugly stage. This one goes through a lot of ugly stages, but it's amazing how it turns out. I'm actually kind of proud of myself. I've never done anything that looked quite this good, I think, in my opinion. Well, at the end. And of course, I do have this sped up a bit. It's a little bit longer. It's like 18-19 minutes long. And I can't believe I created this in a short period of time. Usually I stop and come back later and fiddle with it, but this one I didn't really do that. I'm just going around all the little shapes, scaly shapes that I drew, just to kind of emphasize their texture on our dragon. And I guess you could call this technique glazing, because I'm putting layer upon layer of watercolor. I mean, it's really just a couple of shades of green and the yellow, but just the buildup of layers gives you the shading. Just keep adding more and more layers. You can sometimes see me, my brush hovering over the picture. I'm like, where do I go? Where do I go? Thought my background was a little faded, so I added a little bit more yellow. And then I'm adding some more yellow and green to the girl. And then darkening her hair a bit. A little bit darker shade of green. I do add a little bit of Payne's Gray to the green because it wasn't quite getting dark enough for me. So this has a bit of Payne's Gray. Now I'm just shading around her face. Can't have her be white. It's gotta be green like everything else. And my dragon's still too light, so I'm adding more shadows, just glazing more green. And I'm just dabbing it in blots to try and get the scaly effect on the dragon. Eventually I'll put his eyeball in there. There we go. And that was Payne's Gray to get the slit in his eye. And just some green around the edges. I'm lifting a little bit because it made a bit of a puddle. I had too much water on there. There I did put a little Payne's Gray in with the green to really darken the underside to get that shading just pop a little bit more. And there it's dry, so I'm doing a wash of green over it a little bit. And then on the girl, some water on my brush and blend it out so it doesn't look all streaky. I'm not that great with faces yet. That one doesn't turn out too bad. Just going around the edges there, trying to get rid of the white edges that have been left. I'm just blotting around, trying to get the scaly look going on a dragon. And a bit of an eyebrow there. Give my girl an eyebrow and eyelashes. I'm just intensifying the yellow, just doing another layer of yellow in the background. Now here I'm using acrylic paint, and it's titanium white with a little bit of navy, just to give it a bluish cast. I had tried leaving the white spaces, but it just got too frustrating, so I figured I'd just paint these little spines afterwards, and it works. So it goes from watercolor to mixed media because I've added a new media, which is acrylic paint. And we're going to put a little highlight in his eye. I come back and do a little bit more of a highlight to the eye, but I don't think it got videotaped. I think I woke up one morning on my way to work, getting ready for work, and I saw it and I'm like, it needs more, and I just did it really quick. And the girl has like blue-white feathers in her hair, so I tried to create that with the acrylic paint, kind of match the spines of the dragon. I don't know that you can really tell what's going on in her hair because she's cut off so much at the end there, but tried to put a highlight on the lip, make it look glossy, but I don't think it worked very well. Do another coat of the paint to try and get those spines to stand out. Yeah, and that's just the navy putting on those feathers in her hair. Just to get them to look like separate pieces instead of a white blob. Okay, I decided to come in with my black Derwent Inktense pencil and just kind of darkening and shading around things. So I'm going around those feathers that are in her hair just to give them definition. And then kind of enhance the dragon's eye a little bit, some lines in there, and I go around his mouth, just put a little bit of extra shading, and then I decided to shade around the spines so that they show up more. So I just kind of darken those areas so that you can really see them. And then around some of these spines, the spines on the top of his forehead are kind of leaf looking, or feather looking I should say. I was trying to emphasize that a little bit more. So now I'll just take a white brush and activate, trying to get an angle but have it still on camera. Excuse me. I'll just drag that Inktense black out underneath the dragon. Really gives it a nice dark shading. Now on the spines I just decided to use the color that's just right there and just go along, and it kind of helps those spines show up on the yellow. And final unveiling, yay! I don't know, I'm pretty excited about how this one turned out. I hope you liked it, and make sure you put the hashtag CAC Fantasy Art in the search on YouTube, and you'll find a bunch of art created by artists who are also doing fantasy art. Thank you for watching.